Tonight's story comes from the deep woods of Montana, a place most folks only see on a map, but some of us still call home. A veteran park ranger set out to find a missing hiker before the blizzard took him. What he found instead never should have been walking on two legs. They say the forest keeps its secrets buried in the snow, but sometimes it digs them back up. This is the ranger's confession. I've worked as a ranger up in Black Elk Forest for 16 years. Long enough to see a lot of bad things happen to good people. But not like this. Not like what I did. The station they assigned me to was small. Just a cabin with a radio, a cot, and enough canned food to last through February. Most folks can't stand the isolation. But for me, it was peace. At least, it used to be. It started after the blizzard rolled in. Whiteout conditions, 20 below, wind that could peel the skin off your face. We got a call that a hiker, a kid named Evan Reese, 19, had gone missing up near Ridgepoint Trail. They told me to wait for backup before heading out. I didn't. You don't leave someone out there overnight, not in that kind of cold. The trail was half gone under the snow, and by dusk, I'd already lost sight of the ridgeline. I found boot prints about a mile from the trailhead, going uphill. Then they stopped. No sign of a struggle, no tracks leading back down. Just a single deep impression, like someone had fallen to their knees and been dragged into the trees. I called out his name. Nothing. Then I heard something else. Not an answer. Not really. More like a voice carried wrong by the wind. It said my name. For a second, I thought it was the radio in my pack. Static. Maybe a voice cutting through. Then it came again. Closer. Softer. My name. I raised my light and saw a figure maybe 30 yards out. No color, just gray on gray. It moved like it was fighting the storm. I shouted, "Evan!" and it stopped moving. I swear to God it looked right at me. The snow cleared for half a second, and I saw its arms, too long, hanging past its knees. Its head cocked to the side like it was curious. And I don't know why, but my hand went for my rifle. I didn't think, I just fired. The shot echoed off the ridge and the figure dropped. When I reached it, it was him. I dragged Evan's body back to the cabin. His face was half frozen, lips cracked, eyes open like he'd died mid-sentence. I told myself I'd bring him down at first light, let the coroner handle it. But the wind was screaming, and I could barely see 5 feet in front of me. So I laid him out on a tarp by the stove. His clothes were stiff with ice. Steam rose off him when the fire hit. The room smelled like iron and pine sap. I tried the radio again. Nothing but static. Sometimes, if I turned the dial just right, I thought I could hear a voice cutting through, but it was too broken to make sense of. Could have been wind, could have been guilt. I didn't eat, just sat there, staring at that tarp, telling myself I'd done what I had to do. But every time the cabin creaked, I looked up. And the longer I sat, the louder the wind started to sound like words. Around midnight, I heard something scrape against the back wall. Once, then again. A slow drag of nails on wood. I went outside with the flashlight, heart in my throat. Snow fell sideways, thick and fast, burying my tracks as soon as I made them. Nothing moved except the trees. I started to turn back when I heard it. A whisper right behind me. Dan. The voice was soft. Wet. Like someone whispering through a mouthful of blood. I spun around. Nothing there. But I swear, I could still feel the breath of it on my neck. When I got back inside, the fire was almost out. The tarp was empty. For a second, my brain just shut off. I stared at that floor until my eyes watered, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. The snow on his boots, the ones I'd pulled off, was still melting in a puddle by the stove. The rifle was right there. I grabbed it, chambered around, aimed at the door. Something knocked, 3 times, then again, slower. The sound came from the same place I'd just been, the wall behind the stove. I shouted his name. No answer, just a faint sound, something dragging through snow. Then, a voice from the porch said, "I'm cold." Not a scream, not an echo, just Evan's voice, calm, almost gentle. I could see the shadow of his feet under the door, bare, no boots. I didn't open it, couldn't. I just sat there, staring, listening to him breathe. I don't remember falling asleep, but when I woke up, it was daylight. The door was still cracked open. Snow drifted across the floor. He was gone. I couldn't stand the thought of him lying out there somewhere, not with what I'd seen. So I dug a hole behind the shed. The ground was hard, frozen through, and every shovel strike rang like metal on bone. I wrapped what was left of him in the tarp and buried him there. Said a few words, told myself it was done. But when I came back inside, I could still hear the whisper through the walls. Dan. Like it was coming from under the floorboards. After a while, the breathing turned into a low clicking sound. Teeth, maybe. I don't know. At some point, I must have passed out with the rifle in my lap, because when I woke up, the fire was out and the door was open 6 inches. Snow drifted across the floor, and on the threshold, half buried in white, was a single handprint. Not a human one. Long fingers. Nails like glass. The sun never really rose that morning. Just a dull gray light pressing through the clouds like it was ashamed to look down here. I didn't sleep much. Every time I shut my eyes, I saw him standing in the snow. Still, watching. I went out back. Evan's grave was open. The tarp I'd wrapped him in was torn clean down the middle. Snow filled the hole like a wound scabbing over. I couldn't find tracks, not at first. The wind erased everything. But about 20 feet out, near the tree line, there were drag marks. Long, deep, and too wide to be human. Something else was out there. Something that remembered how to wear a man's skin. I tried to keep busy, patching the door, getting more wood for the stove. Anything to not look at that hole in the ground. But by late afternoon, the forest went quiet. That's how I knew it was back. Out here, you can feel silence like pressure in your ears. Even the birds shut up. Then I heard the crunch of snow outside. Slow, steady, coming closer. I moved to the window and pulled the curtain an inch. There was a figure at the tree line. Tall, wrong. The way it bent at the waist made my stomach twist. It had Evan's jacket on. I could see the rip on the shoulder from when I dragged him. It took a step forward. The sound, that crunch, matched my heartbeat. Then it stopped and tilted its head like it was listening to me breathe. I backed away, rifle shaking in my hands. The wood stove popped, loud, and I swear to God, it looked right at the window and smiled. I shut the curtain. Didn't move for an hour. Just stood there with the rifle, and the shaking wouldn't stop. When I finally worked up the nerve to peek again, it was gone. But there were prints now, leading from the trees to the porch. Bare feet, deep as deer hooves. I barred the door, set every chair I had against it. Still, I kept hearing it, the boards creaking as it circled the cabin. At one point, the wind caught the chimney, and I heard his voice again. Dan, you left me. It came from inside the stove, like it was crawling through the smoke. I threw the poker in, embers sparking everywhere. The voice went quiet, but not gone. Just waiting. After that, I started talking to myself. Anything to drown out the sound of it pacing outside. That night, the knocking came back. Not on the walls this time, on the roof. Slow, scraping movements, like something dragging its fingers across tin. Then it leapt down. I felt the thud shake the floorboards. I fired through the door. Twice, maybe 3 times. The muzzle flash lit the room orange, and for half a second, I saw something through the window. White skin stretched too tight, eyes like wet glass. It moved fast, and then the snow swallowed it again. I didn't sleep after that, just sat in the corner with the fire dying low, listening to the wind whisper my name until the world went pale with mourning. By the time the storm broke, the cabin didn't feel like mine anymore. The fire was out, the walls black with smoke. The air inside smelled like wet ash and old blood. I waited until the light turned gray through the window before I finally unbarred the door. The wind had stopped. Everything was still. Outside, the world was clean again. Snow buried the porch, smooth as glass. No footprints, no drag marks. Nothing. Like the night had erased itself. I went behind the shed anyway. The grave was open again, wider this time. The tarp was gone. At the bottom of the hole, I found the radio, the one I'd left on the table. The speaker was cracked, still hissing static, but under it I heard something else. Breathing. I don't know how long I stood there, listening. The sound came and went, like waves under the snow. Then it said my name. Soft, clear. Close. I dropped the radio and ran. Didn't grab the rifle, didn't take the pack. Just ran until the forest started to thin, and I could see the pale line of the service road below. That's where they found me the next day, half frozen, raving about voices in the trees. They said there were no tracks near the cabin, no sign of anyone else. But they didn't see what I saw. They didn't hear it. Sometimes, when the wind hits just right up here, it carries the snow down from Ridge Point. It whispers through the pines, light as breath. If you stand real still, you can almost make out the words. I stopped trying to answer, because I know what happens when you do. The forest doesn't forget what you've buried. It just waits for you to come back.
And that's tonight's encounter. If you made it this far, you're officially part of the hunt. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss the next story. Until then, keep your eyes open and your flashlight charged.